Hello everyone, it's me, the real me. Sorry I haven't been on in a while. I've had a very busy time. I've had to go to the hospital a few times. I cracked a rib, so still can work. It's just very painful. But I've sorry I haven't been on. I just want to get all my old videos up. I still have a few old videos to put up. I think I had 40 before I deleted everything. So right now I have 22. This should be the 23rd video. But this video will just be not really anything. I'm going to have it all in the description about the historical documents and archaeological findings of people, places, and events, documentation, and other findings in the description about relating to Jesus and other things in the Bible. That there are non-biblical documents, and also I want to talk about what non-biblical documents really are, such as the Bible. The books in the Bible are technically non-biblical documents. They started just as writings, recordings of history. And then throughout the time, people, the church found these books, found these writings, the letters of Paul, letters of others, and compiled them together because they had to do with God and Jesus. So they compiled them together into what we call the Bible. So making them biblical, but really they're not biblical documents. They are just documents from different sources, from different writings, from different people, all are talking about the same thing. So the same as with what historic non-biblical documents are. They're just other contemporary writings about, the same events, same stories, same people, same God, same Jesus. So again, I just want to if someone asks you to give them non-biblical documents, you can let them know that there are non-biblical documents, but you can also let them know that technically even biblical documents are non-biblical documents. And if they're really skeptic or like hate God, hate the Bible, they might not believe that, but still you should let them know that it's true that even biblical documents are still non-biblical. They're not. So, but there is a few pieces of like non-biblical, I'll just say non-biblical, what other people would call them, that have nothing to do with the Bible, that talk about Jesus being crucified on the cross for claiming to be God. And there's a few non-biblical documents, which are all this I'll have in the description below. It has to do with the supernatural. Finnegan, I think his name is. He wrote about he figured out when the crucifixion of Jesus happened, down to the right time, and he recorded that over 1,000 miles away in Byzantia, Nicaea. It's now it's called another place in Turkey, but it's over 1,000 miles away, and again it'll be in the description. That he recorded that there was 3 hours of darkness and an earth shake at the same time of Jesus' crucifixion. So there's a non-piece of biblical documents. I mean that location was never mentioned in the Bible uh, during the crucifixion of the 3 hours of darkness and the earthquake. Um, and this guy Finnegan, I think that's his name. I'm terrible at pronouncing foreign names. Wrote about this event that happened at the same time of Jesus' crucifixion. So people could say that's a coincidence, but that would just be their interpretation. But what you have to look at is what he actually wrote this about this event happening at the same time. So historically, we have these two contemporary pieces. Well, more than two because the four Gospels, and then this non-biblical document of what he writes of that event happening over 1,000 miles away. And as the crucifixion, the darkness covered all the land and the great earthquaking. So I thought that was cool. Once I found that last year, I thought that was really cool because I know it's true from my personal experience with the Lord. And I'll Might have to make another video about my personal testimony. I've shared it with a few others who've asked about it online, but maybe I'll make a video. But anyways, to see other pieces of evidence like the House of David, archaeological findings, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the many thousand fragments, um, the Epirus Papyrus, and that has to do with the recording, like about the Exodus times of the 10 plagues. There's a biblical document, which records the 10 plagues and what happened in the land. And then also there's a non-biblical document of someone keeping records of that event. Some people interpret that as maybe it was a just another document of poetry. But others, it's record keeping for the land. Again, you have to look at what we have. We have two contemporary pieces of writings talking about same events, and then if people want to interpret it as coincidence or poetry, they can. I mean, that's up to them. I personally do not consider it to be coincidence. I figure it as being evidence because we have these two writings. One's non-biblical, one's from the Bible, and I think it gives good evidence to the actual events. Same as with the 3 hours of darkness and the earth shaking. So those are the two main ones about the supernatural events. There's also about the Moabites, the Moabite stone, and the Magnus steel. They're carvings on a stone. They'll also be in the description. But I just wanted to go over a briefness of this, a couple of minutes talking about it. And yeah, so people can say all these pieces of evidence that I'll have in the description are coincidences. However, that's quite a few coincidences, and I don't believe them to be coincidences. People before, when I was younger, people used to say, "You don't even have evidence of Jesus. Jesus isn't real. If you could prove Jesus was real, I'll believe." Well, now there's plenty of evidence, and most historians and biblical scholars are in much agreement that Jesus, the biblical Jesus, was real. But now it's, prove that he rose from the dead. Well, there's evidence to say that he rose from the dead. And even Bart Ehrman, he was Christian, now he's an atheist, and I just watched a video on his new book, How Jesus Became God. He still doesn't believe that Jesus is God, but the one question I want, because I heard him say this before, so I wanted to double check with that video, and he confirmed it, that he acknowledges that the disciples saw visions of Jesus, that they truly believe that they saw visions of Jesus. And he acknowledges that they believed they saw visions of Jesus. So he's interpreting that they're hallucinations and that it wasn't really him, but he sees from the studying that he believes they truly saw Jesus. He believes they're hallucinations. I believe he rose from the dead. And the reason why I think academically, as in looking at the evidence, that Jesus actually rose from the dead and why you should trust the Bible is because all these pieces of evidence, non-biblical and like the biblical writings, but all the non-biblical writings that match up with the biblical documents, each give more and more credibility to the Bible being more accurate. And if you just want to say, well, it's just a coincidence, and you can piece all these coincidences together so it doesn't really have any bearing on the Bible being more credible. But for me, these are a lot of pieces of evidence, and I think it makes the Bible more and more credible for each discovery. So I think it's a good reason to trust the Bible. I mean, it's amazing that one piece of evidence would have been found. I mean, but now there's so much more. So I think each finding give more and more credibility to the Bible, and that's another reason why I believe that the Gospels and like the visions of Jesus weren't hallucinations, but they are actually true. They are actually, Jesus rose from the dead. He touched the hole in his hand, and touched the hole in his side. Can you do that with an hallucination? I mean, Bart Ehrman goes over it briefly in the documentary talking about his book. It's like a 10-minute video saying how many people saw visions of Mary, Saint Mary in the sky or some location. But the only difference is with Jesus, Jesus was talking with them and meeting with them and touching, touching the hands, touching the sides. It was a physical discussion. It wasn't just, I see you for a couple minutes and poof, you're gone. It's not like if I were to see something in the sky, or, I haven't seen St. Mary or anything like that. If I were to see something, uh, like I get sleep paralysis sometimes, I think I see something, but it's not like I'm actually physically talking to someone that I know I'm talking to. I think I see something, but I know it's not there, if that makes any sense, as opposed to talking to my friend who I know is there and I know, it's really him. And I believe that's what the disciples and Jesus coming back, being rose from the dead, was. They were physically talking to him because he was physically there, not because they think they saw him. Being seen as even a mass hallucination, that's one thing, but actually talking and having conversation and touching parts of the bodies, that's completely different. So I just think it gives more credibility to the Bible with all these other findings. So I appreciate you guys still being subscribed to me. I hope you enjoy my work. I'm sorry I probably won't be making entertaining videos besides just my face anytime soon. I still have no idea how to do that. Haven't used PowerPoint or anything since like elementary school, so and then with my business, it just don't have time. It's just a Sunday today. I figured I would make a short video and then uplink all the historical documents and findings relating to Jesus and the Bible that you may want to give people to show them that there is evidence for the supernatural, non-biblical documents recording supernatural events or possible supernatural events, or they can consider them coincidences. But there are recordings, non-biblical recordings of events. So, and then findings. So, alright. So until the next time, everyone, toodles.